Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel for what has been a massive undertaking. Today I'll be tackling the Star Wars Battlefront Iceberg. If you're not familiar with what an iceberg is, or at least this kind of iceberg, it's basically a tier list of facts about a certain topic, usually starting with some reasonably well-known stuff at the top, but getting progressively more and more obscure and sometimes disturbing the lower you go. The iceberg I'll be going through today is a slightly modified version of one created by EpicDude1131 over on Reddit, who did an excellent job on this. This video was awesome to make because some really cool stuff I hadn't thought about in years is on here, and this chart covers both Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2 from 2017, although it's definitely Battlefront 2 heavy, probably like a 60-40 split. If you enjoy this video and this type of long-form content, I would definitely appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up, as this took forever to put together and to research the things I wasn't completely sure I was on the money with. Okay, let's not waste any more time and just start at the beginning, the tip of the iceberg, the C-3PO and R2-D2 intro. What this is referring to is the main menu screen from Battlefront 2015, the little animated intro that would blind you with its bright white background every single time you started up the game. Next up, launch Anakin. As most of you remember, when Anakin was first released, he was ridiculously overpowered. Anyone with a faint pulse could go on a huge kill streak, and I still question how the devs thought Anakin was ready for release in the state he was in. I think it says a lot that DICE nerfed Anakin hard about a dozen times, and he's still a top 5 hero. Cantina hologram is up next. This one is very simple. If you head into the cantina in Mos Eisley, you'll find a little interactable area where you can play a recorded hologram of the Cantina band. Moving on, Rey's Resilient skin. To unlock this skin, you have to do a little Easter egg on Takodana. It involves running around the map, dropping down onto a flag, and unlocking this little room in the basement. Once you're in the room, as long as you're in an online mode like co-op, the skin will instantly unlock and you are golden. Next is the DICE group photo, which goes hand in hand with the Resilient skin. In the room you unlock on Takodana, you can find a little painting on the floor of all of the Battlefront 2 devs, or most of them, I assume. Environmental clutter. This is a favorite of mine, as it refers to one of the dumbest things to happen during Battlefront 2's entire life cycle. During one of the smaller content drops, DICE released a promo photo of some clone trooper skins they were releasing, and in the background you can see what is clearly a droideka, and keep in mind, this was before droidekas were ever announced. Well, everyone knew what it was, people went crazy, but DICE outright denied it was a droideka at all, with the community manager Ben eventually posting this goofy explanation on Reddit, saying the team thought the droideka in the screenshot might have been a crashed speeder or environmental clutter, and that's why they denied it was a droideka. Of course, not too long after, droidekas were officially announced and then released, so whatever, I still don't understand why they handled the whole situation the way they did. Leia's flashbang grenade is up next, and most people probably remember this one. During the final year of Battlefront 2 updates, Leia was completely reworked. Her E11 and shield were heavily buffed, and her third ability was totally changed. Before the rework, Leia just had a flash grenade. It didn't deal damage or anything like that. It just blinded the enemy, and it was very underwhelming for a hero ability. Because so many people, myself included, complained that Leia desperately needed a rework, as part of her rework, DICE replaced her flash grenade entirely with what she currently has, 3 very powerful thermal detonators. The super roll is up next, and this is a Battlefront 2015 fact. Pretty simple, Battlefront 2015 had this ridiculous bug where you could seriously exploit the roll and send yourself flying across the map. The Saber Clash is up, and anyone who played Battlefront 2015 definitely remembers this one. If Vader and Luke both used their heavy attacks at the same time, they would engage in this long animation where both are invincible to other damage, and it was a cool feature, but in my experience, it didn't happen organically very often. R2-D2 Hero. This could be referring to a couple of different things, one being that during Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2 a little bit, people would joke that they wanted R2 to be the next hero. That was way more of a thing during Battlefront 2015, just because 2015 was only original trilogy stuff, and DICE had way fewer options for heroes in the first place. However, what this is more likely referring to is that R2 kind of was a hero in Battlefront 2015. On one map, in one phase of one specific mode, Battle Station from the Death Star DLC, you could play as R2 and his abilities were all support based. You could overheat blasters, scan for enemies, and drop a smoke grenade if I remember correctly. CT When. This was just a community meme. CT stands for Community Transmission, which were usually patch notes or just general updates on plans for Battlefront 2. Anyway, in the community, people were always desperate for new community transmissions, so anytime the CM Ben would ever post anything at all, he would get spammed with people asking, CT when? Lando glitch. This one is definitely referring to when Lando first released in Battlefront 2015, and he was completely broken. His ability Power Blast, which was basically a homing shot, could be spammed and abused so badly that the ability was just constantly active, and a single Lando could easily turn the tide of an entire game of Walker Assault. It was totally game-breaking and constantly ruined matches until DICE eventually did get around to fixing it, which took forever from what I remember. Gamorrean guards in jail. This just refers to, you probably guessed it, Gamorrean guards in jail, which can be found in the Jabba's Palace map in both EA Battlefronts. Pre-nerf disruption. This just refers to the disruption star card in Battlefront 2015, which was added with the Bespin DLC. For a long while, it was one of the most obnoxious star cards in the game, as you could instantly overheat the enemy's blaster with like no delay. Eventually, with the Scarif DLC, they did nerf it a bit, so there was a short delay before disruption eventually did kick in. Loot crates is the final fact in the first and least obscure tier, the one that's above the water. This is just referring to the loot crates that were a huge source of controversy for Battlefront 2 at launch. They were eventually removed, and the entire progression system had to be reworked because of their removal. Alright, moving below the surface and one tier down, we start with Pink Vader. This was part of an idiotic comment from EA CFO around the launch of Battlefront 2. He was trying to defend the stupid loot box system they had in place at launch, and when he was asked why DICE hadn't just worked on some cosmetics to support the game's future DLC instead of the pay-to-win loot crates, he basically said there weren't enough cosmetic options in Star Wars, and immediately jumped to, oh, how could we ever do cosmetics? Nobody wants a pink Darth Vader, which, of course, is a ridiculous thing to say, as there are so many cosmetic options in Star Wars, and even after the end of Battlefront 2 support, there are still 100+ skin options just for the heroes that are already in the game, not to mention the dozens of heroes that never made it in at all, and all of the cosmetic options for each of them. Okay, that was kind of a long one compared to the others. Armchair Developer is next. This was just a comment from the EA community manager around the time of Battlefront 2's launch. He went by Sledgehammer, and when Battlefront 2 was getting absolutely torn apart at launch because of the loot crates and the unfinished state of the game, and the ridiculous loading times, and just the sad state of Battlefront 2 in general, he put out this tweet saying, the armchair developers on the internet. You know, he was just kind of whining a little bit about all of the criticism the game was getting as though it was somehow undeserved, which, if you played Battlefront 2 at launch, you know that like none of the criticism was undeserved. This guy left EA and was replaced as community manager shortly after this incident. I'm sure he's a lovely guy in real life, but he definitely should have read the room a little bit before putting out that tweet. Jabba the Hutt bathwater. I think this was the only one on the iceberg that I wasn't immediately familiar with, but I did have an idea of where to look, and then I remembered, in Jabba's palace you can find none other than Jabba's bathwater. Nice. Jumpcaster. This was the ridiculous combination of the Bounty Hunter trait, Jump Pack, and Bowcaster in Battlefront 2015. These three together were ridiculous, and before the nerf it just made for easy and free kills constantly. You didn't have to be very accurate with the Bowcaster to insta-kill enemies, and with the Bounty Hunter trait, which once upgraded, would grant instant cooldowns on both the Jump Pack and the Bowcaster, it was just insane. This combo was eventually nerfed into the ground, but it was a very annoying / very fun thing while it existed. Flying Grievous. If you don't know, Grievous has a history of a ton of bugs and glitches, and many of those glitches have to do with his thrust surge ability. What I'm about to explain can still happen in the right circumstances, but for a long time, if Grievous targeted a hero on the move with that ability, he could fly across the map in ridiculous ways. First Order food is up next, and this refers to the cafeteria area on the First Order Star Destroyer, where you can find trays of food in these little kiosks. Mop Head, Some Info, and Uninspired Zebra. Mop Head is a guy who dug through Battlefront 2's files many times, all throughout the game's lifecycle, where he found unused content in the files, much of which eventually did get used for later updates. Some Info was a prominent leaker who let out a ton of information ahead of time. He clearly was a part of or knew someone on the Battlefront 2 dev team. Finally, Uninspired Zebra, he was, maybe still is, a modder / data miner, and he would also constantly leak things out ahead of their announcements, although he would usually just find the info in the files, not get it from someone at DICE. Hero traits. These were a thing in Battlefront 2015 that were added like a year after release. Hero traits were a stat bonus that would improve if you were getting kills quickly as a hero, Luke's speed increased, Han's damage increased, and his drop-off decreased. Leia and Vader both would earn increased armor. I believe Leia's also applied to teammates. You get the idea, all of the heroes had these traits. Long Yoda is up next. This was just a funny glitch on the menu screen where Yoda would stretch to the size of a normal character model. Jetpack Cargo, this was a temporary mode in Battlefront 2. It was alright, I guess, you just had to transport cargo, but everyone was a rocket trooper. I'm not sure why it was temporary. They did bring it back at one point on the Bespin map, but I remember the Bespin version was not well thought out at all, and matches would always get stuck and never finish constantly. Pizza Guy, this was just a running joke in the community when the game wasn't getting very many updates. People would joke that the Pizza Guy for DICE was actually helping work on the game because they were so short-staffed, and that the Pizza Guy was the one leaking information out and doing all of the work on the game, etc. Dance emotes, these were/are, I suppose, unused emotes in the files. These were all replicas from the Kinect Star Wars game. If you know the I'm Han Solo song I use in my outro, all those moves are from that song, and for whatever reason they weren't approved and were never released, despite the many pleas from myself and others. Han and Luke unreleased skins. This is kind of an obscure one to be this high up, but in early trailers for the game, appearances for Luke and Han can be seen that were never released. One was a beardless version of his smuggler skin, so his Return of the Jedi look, and another was Luke with just one glove as he appears in Episode 6. Star Card loadouts in Battlefront 2. This was a feature begged for by many. People wanted to be able to save multiple Star Card loadouts to easily swap between, and this was something that DICE was working on for the final updates. Data miners have even found and enabled the Star Card loadouts that DICE put together on PC, but they were never officially implemented, so you can't actually use them on console or officially in any way. Next up is the Padme painting, and unless I'm missing something deeper here, I believe this just refers to the painting of Padme near the Naboo throne room. People were desperate for anything Clone Wars related when the game came out, so a big deal was made of the fact that you could find Padme in the Republic spawn area of the map. Helmetless Stormtroopers. This was a whole controversy during Battlefront 2015. When the game came out, you could customize Stormtroopers and run around with their helmets off. Most players didn't like that, many complained it was immersion breaking, so eventually the option was removed entirely. Giant Spider on Endor. This will shock many of you, but this is in reference to a giant spider on Endor. In the Battlefront 2015 Survivors of Endor map, in the caves you can find a massive spider just chillin', and he'll run away, or scurry away I guess, if you decide to shoot the poor thing. That is it for this tier. We now move deeper into the iceberg, or below the surface, starting with the Rainbow Back-to-Bomb. This was a glitch/Easter egg in Battlefront 2015. Occasionally, if you threw a back-to-bomb when a nearby explosion was going off, the back-to-bomb would look multicolored. It didn't happen very often, but when it did, it was kinda cool. Droid Torture Room. On Jabba's Palace in both Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2, you can find a little room where a gonk droid is being tortured. This, of course, is taken directly from the saddest scene in Return of the Jedi. Grievous erases heroes. This just refers to when Grievous's Claw Rush was absolutely busted, and you could basically just circle any hero you managed to knock down and insta-kill them with his Claw Rush before they could do anything about it. Leia Nerf. At first, I thought this was just referring to when her secondary fire in Battlefront 2 was considerably nerfed and toned down, but then I realized this was actually referring to Leia's immense thickness that she possessed when Battlefront 2 first released. Yes, when the game launched, Leia had the Mrs. Incredible look going on, but DICE decided that was too OP apparently and decided to nerf her considerably, which some in the community were upset with, and you can actually install a mod to restore her to her former, let's say, glory. Next up, 240 plus issues I have with the game. This refers to a random Reddit post that I actually remembered, where some dude who has a lot of free time put together a list of over 240 bugs and other issues that he had noticed, and not only that, he linked footage to every single issue he described, which, bravo, many of the things he pointed out are still not fixed, but it's the effort that counts, I suppose. Matt's uniform. I made a video on this last year. On the First Order Star Destroyer, you can find Matt the radar technician's uniform being ironed. This is, of course, from the SNL skit that basically everyone on planet Earth has seen. Co-op crate voice lines. In the files, there are full voice lines from the announcers for the mode co-op on crate. It was clearly planned to add the map to co-op at some point, but for whatever reason, it never happened. Launch Chewbacca. As many will remember, Chewie was absurdly good in Heroes vs. Villains when the game launched. His shock grenade plus his bowcaster could insta-kill just about any villain before anything could be done about it by your enemy. Of course, he was eventually nerfed really hard. He was maybe the worst hero in the game for a while until DICE did buff him a few times, and he's okay these days, at least in hero modes. Grievous, Ahsoka, and Padme voice lines. A common theme in this video is things DICE worked on but never released, and in the files there are voice lines for General Grievous speaking to both Ahsoka and Padme. I'm sure those of you that haven't heard them are curious, so I'll play them now.
Ah, the Padawan! Skywalker's apprentice! So many lightsabers to add to my collection! Tano, so it is to be a rematch then! Your master is not here to save you now! Senator Amidala, I presume. Ooh, I've never killed a queen before. I will laugh as Naboo mourns your death. You only prolong the inevitable, Senator. This is for the malevolence.
Wampa's Lair is up next. This one takes us back to Battlefront 2015. On Hoth, you can find a Wampa just chillin' and snacking. If you shoot him, he'll look at you all offended, but go right back to what he was doing instantly. Rey's Alpha VA, this one is probably not known by many, but in the Battlefront Alpha, Rey was not voiced by Daisy Ridley. She was voiced by Helen Sadler, the voice of Jyn Erso from Battlefront 2015. And this is what Rey sounds like in the Alpha.
I can handle myself.
I can handle myself.
I'm ready for what's next.
I'm ready for what's next.
Perfect.
Perfect.
You shouldn't be here.
You're not welcome here.
Not any closer.
Not any closer.
Next up also has to do with Rey, Theed NPC Rey clones, which sounds like a bunch of gibberish when I just say it like that. On Naboo, you will see these random civilian NPCs running away. In a normal match, you will never get a good look at them, but if you're on PC and you free the camera up to take a look at their faces, you will see that their faces are actually just low-resolution versions of Rey's face, which is an interesting use of existing assets. Ewok Hunt Pies, and we're getting in really deep at this point. In Ewok Hunt, the game mode that some of you probably haven't played, I would even say most of you probably haven't played this mode, you can find these random pies around the map. If you shoot each of them, you will open this little bunker door where you can interact with a console that will play the main Star Wars theme. Moving on, Hero Hunt changes. This just refers to the overhaul of the Hero Hunt mode in Battlefront 2015. They reworked it in a few different ways, but the main difference was how the person who became the next hero was selected. For a long time, whoever dealt the killing blow to the current hero would become the next one. After the rework, it was kind of a lottery system. The top 3 damage dealers would all have a chance to become the hero, and one of the 3 would be randomly selected. Snoke's Throne Room. On Starkiller Base, there is a broken panel laying on the ground, and you can look through the gap and see the throne room from Episode 8. You can't get in through normal means, but it is neat to look at. Stats menu is up next, and this was something found in the files during the Battlefront 2 Alpha. DICE clearly had plans to allow players to track their stats, but because the game was forced out kind of unfinished, that never came to be. Finishing off this tier of the Hero Iceberg is the Hero Cape/Cloak glitch, which is just one of the worst clipping issues that Battlefront 2 has. Basically, every hero with a cape has many issues where their body parts clip through their capes, which is always ugly to look at. Alright, we are down to the final 3 levels of this thing. For some reason, this tier and the next are somewhat empty compared to the others. We have just 6 facts in the 3rd tier from the bottom, only 3 in the next, but the final tier is completely full like the others, which we've already done. That said, this tier starts off with the Back-to-Bomb in Battlefront 2, which is exactly what it sounds like. In the files of the game, there is a version of the Back-to-Bomb that is semi-functional. It can be accessed on PC with the right mods, but it clearly wasn't finished by the devs. This was probably something they planned to include in BF2 and maybe thought better of it because of how drastically the Back-to-Bomb changed the meta in Battlefront 2015. It was pretty controversial from what I remember. Unused reinforcements. Sadly, in the files, there are 2 reinforcements DICE was working on but never implemented. The Rebel Honor Guard is there in the files, not quite ready to go, but DICE were well into the process, and also a Rebel Pilot reinforcement, the abilities of which were pretty cool, an X-Wing strike, an astromech, and a proton launcher. These 2 are especially sad because the original trilogy era really needed some more reinforcements. The Clone Wars and sequel era got a lot of love, but the OT era received very little. Unreleased weapons, again similar thing, although way more of them. A bunch of the blasters from Battlefront 2015 that never made it to Battlefront 2 are in the files of the game. Some of them are fully functional, others only partially so, but they just sat there unused throughout the entire life cycle of Battlefront 2, which really was a bummer considering how weak the weapon variety still is in the game. Unused appearances. There are a shocking number of cosmetics in the files that are, in most cases, completely ready to go, but again, they just sit there unused, which, what do you even say at this point? Offline Galactic Assault. This is just something people begged for throughout the entire life cycle of Battlefront 2. A lot of people, myself included, consider Galactic Assault to be the best mode in BF2, and many people wanted an offline option because online Galactic Assault is often really tryhard, or it's just a steamroll by one team or the other, which is an unfortunate drawback of the mode. Finally, for this tier, we have Phasma's early abilities. When Battlefront 2 released, Phasma and Finn weren't in the game officially, but Phasma was found in the files and had a completely different weapon and different abilities than she eventually released with. She had a grenade launcher, something called a healing well, which is clearly unfinished, and a laser gate, which is similarly unfinished. Okay, on to the smallest of the tiers with just 3 entries, oddly enough, and first we have the Battlefront 2015 Hero Appearance Glitch. This was just a fun thing you could do after getting a hero token. If you killed yourself with a thermal detonator, or I suppose any grenade, right as you were picking the token up, you would spawn in as your trooper appearance, but with all of the hero abilities and health. Often this would result in disturbing combinations where your trooper appearance wasn't quite compatible with the animations of, say, a hero like Bosk, so your character would just be sickening to look at. The leak of 2018. This was something posted on Reddit by MarTiger434. He claimed to have received a random message from someone who said they were working on the game. The message he apparently received leaked a bunch of stuff, that Geonosis was coming, the legendary Bausch Leia skin, and a bunch of other stuff. In the message, the person claiming to work on the game included a cropped image of the Bausch Leia skin as proof. When this post was made, a lot of people, I'd even say most people, didn't believe it at all, but of course, it turned out to be entirely legitimate and was a massive leak from someone on the Battlefront 2 team. Finally, for this tier, which again was a really short one, the Ewok Hunt map is from Battlefront 2015. This one is pretty self-explanatory. If you play the mode Ewok Hunt, one of the 2 maps you play on is the Survivors of Endor map from Battlefront 2015, which they repurposed and made some small adjustments to for the mode. The other Ewok Hunt map in rotation is just the Battlefront 2 version of Endor, but retrofitted for Ewok Hunt. Okay, we are now on to the bottom of the iceberg. Here we go. Star Wars Battlefront is an alternate Star Wars reality. This is just something I see now and then where people try to fit Battlefront scenarios, mostly Galactic Assault, into some sort of sensical reality or alternate canon. I just think it's a game where Darth Maul can throw Rey into a pit on the Death Star 2, and there's nothing more to it. But for the people who just obsessively need to fit everything into some sort of box, I do see the alternate reality thing somewhat often. Hero Blast. This was just something people begged for during Battlefront 2015. People really wanted a mode where you could just kill heroes instead of the round-based thing they had with troopers, and eventually someone did make a mod where you could play a version of Hero Blast on private servers. People also begged for a version of Hero Blast in Battlefront 2 when the game first came out. The original version of Heroes vs. Villains had this target system where, if I remember correctly, one player on each team would become the target, and whichever team managed to kill the other team's target scored a point. It sounds kind of fun if you've never played it, but I can tell you from experience it was mostly just annoying because it constantly resulted in people just running away or forcing themselves into glitch spots where they couldn't be damaged, or endlessly flying away as someone like Boba. It was just annoying. Eventually, they reworked Heroes vs. Villains into what we have in Battlefront 2 today, which is Hero Blast in everything but name. ISB Agent is a repurposed Ahsoka and Padme. This is what everyone pointed out when the ISB Agent was released. The ISB Agent's face looks very similar to Padme Amidala, and a lot of the ISB Agent's animations look very similar to what you would expect from Ahsoka. In general, the ISB Agent just feels like a reinforcement that was kind of thrown together using existing assets, and from what we've heard, Ahsoka was in development when the plug was pulled on Battlefront 2. This isn't really a conspiracy theory. I'm pretty certain that her face model was meant for Padme, and that some of the animations were from Ahsoka, and when they realized they weren't going to be able to finish both, they repurposed some of what they had into the ISB Agent. Geonosis is a past or future version of planet Earth. On the Galactic Assault version of Geonosis during the first phase, there is a panel you can view where the Great Lakes of North America can be seen. People have taken that and suggested it's not just a little Easter egg, and that Geonosis is actually Earth long before or after humans inhabited the planet. Two-seater speeders. This is just referring to something you could do when Battlefront 2 came out. On Endor, it was possible to get 2 players on the same speeder. I believe even heroes could jump on them at one point, and honestly, Some of my worst memories of Battlefront 2 all have to do with the speeder bikes and how broken they were for a while. I mean, you could one-shot any hero just by bumping into them. It was ridiculous. Next up, Finn and Phasma were already in the game. For those of you that played at the very beginning, you will know that the Last Jedi DLC didn't come out until like a month after launch, with Finn and Phasma as the heroes. As we discussed earlier, a really old version of Phasma was in the files. Finn wasn't at all to my knowledge, but what this is referring to is just the fact that Finn, Phasma, and the crate map were all completely done when Battlefront 2 came out. DICE was just withholding the content to release alongside Episode 8, which was just something people were annoyed with at the time. Dengar in Battlefront 2. This isn't really based on anything, it's just kind of a meme. A lot of people wanted Dengar back as he was in Battlefront 2015 and was a bit of a fan favorite, so people would ask the community manager when Dengar was coming pretty often. Unfinished Old Master skin. This is just a theory a lot of people have about the Darth Maul Old Master appearance, which is the one you have to get 5,000 kills for. At one point, DICE teased a Twin Sons Darth Maul appearance. This one, the one from Rebels. Of course, when the skin came out, it was this kind of weird combination of appearances. The top half is sort of like Rebels, except for the fact that his face model is completely unchanged from his Phantom Menace skin. It's super young. And his lower half is clearly from his appearance in Solo. His mech legs are completely different in Rebels, and the big bulky ones are just from his appearance in that movie. This made a lot of people think there were supposed to be two different skins. I mean, I personally remember there being a leak regarding a Solo Darth Maul skin being in the works that never came to be, so there's been this theory that the Old Master skin was kind of Frankenstein from multiple skins they planned to release, but didn't get around to finishing. I don't really know what I think of this theory. I mean, the Old Master skin is okay, I suppose, but I will just say that there are unofficial skins from modders that make the official one pale in comparison, which is kind of sad. Finally, to end off the iceberg, we have the Gungan Announcer. This was something one of the team members over at DICE said at one point, that they had planned to do a Jar Jar Binks announcer event as an April Fool's thing, where Jar Jar would take over as the announcer in modes like Galactic Assault and Heroes vs. Villains, but time constraints prevented them from being able to do it. Well guys, that is it for today's video. If you enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I have a ton of great video ideas for the next couple of months. Let me know in the comment section which of these you knew and which of these you didn't. I'd be really interested to know. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.